Now, you might think that somebody that traps wild dogs as part of their living might have a deep hatred for those animals. Well, for Judy and I, that is far from the case. We have a deep admiration for our wild dogs, our dingoes of this country, and the more we have to do with them out in the bush, the more we trap them, the deeper that affection gets, because they are truly an amazing animal. Now, about 10 or 12 years ago, something really interesting and life-changing actually happened to Judy and I. My son Kurt and I were up chasing scrub bulls in central Queensland, and there was a wild dog bitch barking at us out of the bushes. So you'd think straight away that it wasn't a purebred because it was barking. When we looked closer, we found a den of young pups just with their eyes open. Now, I think if from memory there was 7 or 8 of them, and they're really haunted little guys. They just hit the back of the den, this old burnt out stump, and was sort of cringing in fear, except for one of them. And this one, he came out as bold as can be, wagging his tail, this little pint-sized guy, and as friendly as you would ever see a pup, and very outgoing. So as part of what we do, we had to dispose of that litter of pups, but we kept that one as a crossbred, as what we could see as a crossbred, sort of black and tan wild dog. Just something about that dog, we kept it. And we gave him a name straight away. We call him Ernie the Dingo. Well, from then on, things were never quite the same around our household. This little dog became the talking point, the focal point for anybody that came along. He was into every bit of mischief that you could possibly think of, and the friendliest little outgoing pup you'd ever want, and smart. You only had to show him something once, and that was in there. This was a really, really smart little dog. From then on, Ernie went everywhere with Kurt and I, and we trained him just as we would train one of our border collies. But there was always something about him. There was a different side to his nature that wasn't there in the border collies. One thing we soon learned, that you didn't leave any poultry unguarded around him. If there was a hen, a chook there, anywhere that he could get his teeth into, he would kill it straight away. And as this dog grew older, he started to go out and kill small marsupials, and he would bring them back as like a present, as a gift to Judy and I. He would kill, not to eat, but he'd kill to give, as if we were his den partners that he was providing for us. Very interesting dog. And we were doing a lot of wild pig chasing at that time, and Ernie proved to be a valuable part of our team. He wasn't a dog that would lug, but he was a dog that would bite savagely. If he went in on a pig, he would nip them. No matter what size pig, he would nip them hard and then circle around. That was his way of doing it. He was very different with the way he worked. He could follow a scent as good as any dog that I've had. Once you put him on a track of an animal and he realised that that's what you were after, nothing would stop that dog. Many times when we're hunting deer, I'd see him cast out in a big circle, and he'd go down and he'd put his wind in on a patch of thick brush, lantana or scrub, and he would bring whatever was in there back towards us. He would understand teamwork. He really did understand that he was part of a bigger picture.
Do a payback, Ernie. You got one up the Gunda, mate. He's not got a foot.
Quite often I'd be going along somewhere and he'd pull up and look, and you'd see him looking at the ground and look back at me and look at the ground. And I remember one day in particular, I got down beside him and I said, "What is it, Ernie?" And he started scratching the ground and sniffing and scratching and sniffing. And after a little while, you'd see the moisture in the ground, and here is where a deer had been and had urinated on the ground, and he could smell that smell coming out of the ground. The ground was dried hard, so I couldn't see it, but he could smell it, and he wanted to show me. He'd dig, and look at me until I realised that that was a scent that I should know, and then off he'd go. We found him very, very useful for hunting other wild dogs because he would howl. We could tie him up out in a situation and howl at Ernie. He'd sit there and howl and bring in, if there's any other dogs in the area, he would bring them into him. And he had a hatred for dingoes. He thought he was a border collie. He was an extremely smart dog, but he had a very ruthless streak to him. And we only had Ernie for a few years, and unfortunately we were in one of the major towns on the coast of Queensland here, and he broke away dragging 3 meters of chain with a big collar, 3 meters of chain behind him, and disappeared. Now we went to the local pound, we went to the local shire office, we asked questions, nobody had seen this dog. We put up a reward poster, and just about immediately a lady contacted us and said that she had come across this dog. She had been walking her dog, and this yellow dog dragging a big chain had come right up, was super friendly, did not try to hurt anybody, super friendly. So she picked the chain up, took him home, fed him, called the pound. The pound came in and used 2 capture nooses. They double poled this dog and wondered why Ernie he played up. They said he got fairly savage because these guys had been so aggressive to him. Put him in the back of the council vehicle and off he went. And this was after we'd been there and asked them if they'd seen him. Nobody had. We soon realised that somebody had taken Ernie for themselves. When we started asking questions, we found out later on that they went out and they put a bullet in his head. When we started digging deeper, we saw that in their books, in the council's own books, they had it signed out that he'd been put down by a veterinary surgeon. When we asked why we weren't contacted, they seemed a bit puzzled until we told him that he was microchipped and registered. So they broke every rule in the book. We suddenly realised that we were up against the might of government. They had the money, we didn't. We engaged a solicitor, and we soon realised that it was going to cost us tens of thousands of dollars to try and pursue this, which we didn't have. So they got away scot-free, and poor Ernie was thrown in a ditch somewhere. Well, that was a sad story about Ernie. He was a great dog, a great companion, and he'll always have one of the pride of place positions on our wall. He'll go down in our history as one of the greatest dogs and companions that we've ever had.